Okay, awesome. So yes, good afternoon, everyone. To those who are just joining in, this webinar is what inspiring inclusion across borders, and we're here today to discuss the trends and insights in the tech space in the diaspora. And this webinar was inspired by Women's Day and is inspired by Women's Month. As you know that the month of March was all about celebrating women and doing all that we can, to just ensure that women are included in the industry in tech, and this is what about this webinar. And so we thought to put together a discussion, a session where we pull experts who are doing absolutely fantastic in different fields in tech across the globe, from Canada to the US to the UK, and just across borders, to come and tell us a bit about the trends and the insights, what's happening in their space, especially because there are lots of people who are looking to take on jobs in the global space in tech, a lot of women, a lot of men, and also for those who are looking to immigrate or those who have immigrated but are looking to transition or pivot into the tech space. It's important that you equip yourself with the knowledge and the resources that you need that can make you thrive in this space. And so this is one of the reasons why we are here today. And I'm so excited because our guest speakers, very busy women, but they thought it, very nice to just come and grace us with their presence and also to share their insights. And for that, we're saying thank you. And so just stay with us while I take you through. I think I'll just kick off with a bit of introduction about who we are at Hills and Tech, especially for those who are just getting to hear about Hills and Tech for the first time, or you've heard about us but you're not really sure who we are or what we do. And then I would introduce our guest speakers and we can kick off with the business of the day. So I'll tell you a bit about Hills and Tech. Hills and Tech is a platform that is dedicated to closing the gender gap between women and technology. Um, we offer several non-coding courses such as business analysis, data analytics, data governance, product design, product marketing, bioinformatics, Salesforce CRM, cybersecurity, among others. For just a list of all the courses that we offer, you can check us on our website, hillsandtech.com. And so you might be wondering, how did Hills and Tech come about? And it's such a unique name, right? So our founder, amazing woman, Bisola Alabi, having started a career in tech 10 years ago, never touched a line of code in her life, but witnessed that there was a gap between women and technology, and watched families lose their jobs to digitization. She decided to do something about it in 2020. She set up a platform where women who have increasingly become breadwinners can acquire non-coding technical skills and apply for high quality jobs in less than 2 months. And from inception till date, I can tell you for free that the result has been amazing. There's been a lot of improvement. A lot of women have been able to upskill and transition from, just being in one industry or in one space and then transitioning to tech seamlessly. Because we've been able to offer fully online and have trained in over 25 countries. And we have been able to do this because of due to the virtue of our hands-on trainings, the quality of our facilitators, who ensure that our students get value and also monitor them during interview sessions. So beyond just giving out trainings and what we do, what we've been able to do is we're able to sort of like handhold you, help you prep for interviews, and just help you navigate the tech industry seamlessly. And so we have our experiences ranges from stay-at-home moms, undergraduates, lawyers, medical doctors, people who wish to immigrate, amongst others. Our ultimate goal, at least by 2030, is to have trained over 100 million African women through paid or free sessions, such as the session that we listed above. And feedback from the students that we have trained so far and where they are able to, where they are now working. We have people who have gone on to work with MTN, banks such as UBA, First Bank, EcoBank, Sterling, companies such as Amazon, Travel Better, and just a number of others. So please, just wherever you are, I think we deserve like a round of applause. I think that Hills and Tech is doing fantastic work. And thanks to Bisola and the team for the work that we're currently doing in this space. So now I want this session to be as engaging as possible. This is going to be a discussion. So when it's time to discuss, I'll appeal to our speakers to please unmute and just dive right in, because we want this to be a question and answer talk, and so that people are following us and they are learning as we go along. To those who are just joining in, like I had earlier mentioned, we're talking about trends and insights within the tech space and in the diaspora. And you do not want to miss the session, because we've been able to pull the best of the best who are here from different industries, from business analysis to data analysis, to just talk to us about what's happening in that space so that we are well informed. So without further much ado, I'll go right ahead to introduce our guests, and then they will speak to you as well. And then we can move on to a question and answer session and the discussion for the day. So first on our list, I would be talking about Yetunde Adewumi. Yetunde Adewumi is about informatics research expert. Her research efforts have focused on the development of preventive strategies that occlude infectious and pathogenic microorganisms from forming acute or chronic infections in humans. Yetunde has extensive experience in vaccine development and stability studies, functional analysis of therapeutic monoclonal and polyclonal antibodies, developing polymers as efficient drug delivery systems, drug efficacy studies using molecular tools to probe and understand mechanisms of antimicrobial resistance in bacteria. Yetunde has applied these treatments and investigative strategies both in vitro and in vivo. Outside of work, she is a co-founder at Stay in Bio, an outreach initiative that helps several young African undergraduates and recent bachelor graduates develop and retain their biological sciences career. Please, can we just, put our hands together? Hi, Yetunde. Please unmute yourself and just, say hi to
everyone. It's lovely to be here. Thank you so much for the nice introduction.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking our time to speak with us today. And we know that we're going to learn a lot from you. Thank you. Okay. So moving on to introduce our next speaker, we have on the list Uche Oko. Uche Oko is a business analyst. She's a seasoned business analyst certified in Microsoft Dynamics, Monday.com, Sugar CRM, and Creation, specializing in customized solutions at her current place of employment. With an MBA from Lagos Business School and extensive experience in consulting, requirement gathering, and implementation, Uche brings a wealth of expertise in business and management to her role. Hi, Uche, the business analyst. Hi, so good to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Thank you so much for taking our time to speak with us, and we look forward to having a very robust discussion with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just one thing though, my surname is Ukoh.
Oh, apologies.
Don't worry.
Noted. Thank you so much for that, for correcting that. Thank you. Okay, so moving on, we have Banke Faboyede. Please forgive me if I do not pronounce your surname correctly, but I hope I tried. Banke is a clinical research associate. She works at the Institute of Cancer Research, UK. She has a BSc in biochemistry and MRES, clinical drug development degrees. She lives in Kent, England, and is born to Nigerian parents. She is a clinical research associate too, aspiring to become a clinical trial manager. She's a well-rounded individual with a passion for science, faith, passion, and fun. Is Banke on the call with us? Just to confirm, because okay, so I'm not sure that Banke has joined us yet, but I would just leave a placeholder and just come back when she's able to join in. So moving on, we have Dr. Bolanle Solomon Adewusi. not sure that Dr. Bolanle was able to join us today. So I would just move right ahead from reading her bio. Hopefully she's able to join us for another session. So the next on our list is Janet Lanre. Janet is an experienced data analyst with a vast experience in business intelligence, skilled in SQL, data analytics, visualization, reporting, and business change. She's a graduate of MBA in strategy, operations, and finance with 15 years experience in the public and private sector. Hi, Janet. Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the nice introduction.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking our time to speak with us today. It's so good to have you here. Thank you. Okay, so and then moving on to last but not the least on our list is Annabelle Anyang. So Annabelle Anyang is a research veterinarian originally from Nigeria. She's currently a graduate student in the molecular biology track of the bioscience PhD program at the University of Utah. Her scientific interests are in microbiology, immunology, and infectious diseases, and her rotations projects so far have spanned a variety of focus, from computational malaria research to molecular virology studies on HIV and SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-2. Annabelle is passionate about STEM advocacy, educational outreach, and community engagement. Eager to leverage the skills gained from STEM Map, she hopes to merge her love for science communication and visual art to foster fun and innovative approaches to inspire diverse audiences about science. Annabelle loves to draw, loves to read, travel, and to explore nature. Hi, Annabelle.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. It's so good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining in. Okay, so that's I hope I did justice to introducing all of our amazing guest speakers. And so if you're just joining in, we're here we're inspiring inclusion across borders with this webinar. We're here to discuss trends and insights within the tech space in the diaspora. And we want this, we hope that this session inspires individuals who are looking to immigrate, who are looking to, go into diverse industries across borders, to be better informed before making that step, or even if you're already in that step, to make changes towards the progression of your careers. And so without further much ado, I'll just dive right into the questions. Please, our guest speakers, like I said, I want this to be very engaging. So I wouldn't be calling names. So I'll just be asking questions, and then you can unmute and just give your contributions based on the industry that you are in. And then in the course of this session, please, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat box, because we will be taking questions from the audience at some point before we round off the session. And of course, this particular webinar is brought to you by Hughes and Tech, which is a tech inclusion platform through online trainings, prepping for interviews, and just helping you find your footing in the tech space as an individual. So great, let's dive right into it. So the first question I have on my list is, of course, we've introduced our guest speakers, but I think the first question that I have on my list is, we're all women. And so what is it, or how is it like to be a woman in tech, in your field, in your industry, and in the country that you're in? I'd just like to have, would like to have an idea of what it feels like to be in that space. So I wouldn't talk much. Maybe I'll just call Yetunde to go first, and then Annabelle, Janet, Uche, we can just go accordingly. Hi, Yetunde.
Oh my God, I have to go first. Okay. So for this particular, what does it feel to be a woman in tech? I'm not going to come here and paint it as what it is not. In more recent times, there have been loads of women that work in my industry. In fact, where I work right now, I feel like within my unit, excuse me, there are more women than there are men. That's just the truth. So in saying that, I'm going to use that to encourage every woman that's out here to say that, look, do not limit yourself. There are opportunities left, right, and center for all forms of, all women across board, pregnant, non-pregnant, moms, singles and married. Go ahead and jump right in. I would like to say though that in my field, because I'm a researcher, I'm a research scientist. So what makes that difference is that you have to come with your A game. It is not business as usual. Research involves a lot of critical and analytical thinking. When you do research, your work is not lined up for you. Nobody's going to tell you do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then you would have gotten your work done. You have to be on your toes. You have to think and be like, what am I doing today? What am I going to achieve? If I set out on answering this question and it works, what is going to happen after that? If it doesn't work, what is going to happen? What am I going to be able to do about it? So it's almost like the more you do, the more is uncovered and the farther you go. So you have to keep going, come with your A game, know that it is not, no one is going to really, maybe in the beginning, people will hold your hands and walk you through it. But at the end of the day, you have to come with your ability to think critically and analytically, which is good. I don't want to scare you into thinking, oh my God, it's really hard, it's difficult. No, that's not how it is. It's just the more you get into it, the easier it becomes for you. So yeah, that is what it feels like to be a woman in my field. It's not easy, but it's doable.
It's not rocket science, but it's doable. Amazing. So I don't want to just I think that you based on your experience, you'll be able to share that. So please, Annabelle, Janet, which I'd just like you to also speak about that, how it feels like to be, you in your space, in your industry, in your country. Thank you so much, Yetunde, for that contribution. Amazing.
All right. In my field, I would say there's no difference between you and your male counterpart. Just like Yetunde have said, you need to up your game. You need to be proactive. Initially, yes, when you're just starting, you might need help. But after that, you need to be independent, be able to do your own work yourself. If you need help, you can reach out as well. Then I would say it will also be nice if you can get someone like a mentor as well that can help you along the line in your career as well to shape your career. It might be in your organization if there's opportunity like them providing counselors. But I don't think there's a difference between myself and my female counterpart, honestly. Just know what you are doing. Keep upskilling and you will be fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet.
Okay. What it feels like to be a woman in my field. For me, my experience has kind of been a bit different from what I expected initially. Because first of all, I didn't know that there's a lot of computation in biological research, and so typically when you think of tech and stuff like that, you always go to computer science careers in maybe software development and stuff like that, and you don't really think biological research or clinical research and stuff like that. And so going into it was kind of different for me, and I had to do a lot of research on my own, a lot of training, looking for opportunities, looking for people to mentor me, because I came from a veterinary medicine background, and that's really atypical for my field. So it was I was completely switching into something I didn't know a lot about. And I needed mentorship, I needed training, I needed that a lot of expertise and knowledge that I didn't have. And so it was, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it wasn't the end of the world. It wasn't I couldn't do it. And so I guess that's what I would say. It may seem hard, it may seem strange to people, because I remember, saying that, oh, I want to leave veterinary practice and I want to do computational research. And a lot of people were like, how would that work? So it doesn't need to make sense to everybody, but it just needs to make sense to you. And yeah, you can do it. That's what I would say. It's been hard. It's not been easy. It's not been the easiest journey, but Yeah, you'll be able to do it and you surprise yourself. And when you get there, you'll be surprised to see that it's not the boys' club that you think it is. The first lab I was in was led by a woman, and she had like two female graduate students in the lab. And the second lab I went to were all girls. It was a girl lab. So you might think that, oh, maybe when you get there, you'll be, overwhelmed or alone, but there are people on the same journey as you. So yeah, that's how it's been for me.
Fantastic. Uche, thank you so much, Annabelle. Thank you. That was really insightful. Thank you.
Okay, so for me, my experience is a bit different because, like in my department, for the longest time, I was the only woman until recently when we had another woman join us. However, the fact that I was the only woman did not mean that I was being treated differently or anything. I think generally everyone is more aware about the fact that there might be biases. So everyone is generally more careful. So I don't get treated differently. And maybe because I think mindset is also important. If you don't think that you are different and you just see them as your good colleagues, I think that's the energy you will get back in return. So I think when approaching the job, I think it's important that you are not out looking for biases, right? It doesn't mean there are no biases. If there are, obviously that can be denied, but I don't think it's a good idea going out looking for who is treating you differently because you're a woman. And I think that's how I also approach my job. So there are advantages to being the only woman in an organization because I feel like women we have a separate set of gifts that men don't have, just like men have a separate set of gifts that women don't have. So like women can get very analytical and we can be very, very, we can go extra when it comes to details more than men. So we get to see things sometimes from a different perspective and that gives us an advantage. So just being aware of what your advantages are and taking advantage of making the most of those advantages is what I would say that I usually would do and has helped me so far. Well, as to what it feels like, I think it feels good. I obviously will be happy to have more women join my department, but even if there aren't that many women willing to, I'm still very happy to be working there. So that's my own experience. Not the same as others.
Thank you so much, Uche. That's the whole idea of a session such as this, because we're able to gather different experiences. And a lot of people can learn that, okay, it can be like this in this place, it's like this, it's like this, it's like this. And I think what I've been able to gather from all that we've shared so far, which I must say has been fantastic point, is that, as an individual also navigating tech globally, you have to be ready to think on your feet. Don't think that anybody is going to come and spoon feed you or come and hand you resources at your comfort zone. You have to be ready to think, like, take on that leadership position for yourself and think before anybody. Don't wait for anybody to think for you. Also, I think it was Annabelle who shared that you have to keep learning, and I think that's why Heels and Tech is here, because I'm not sure that anybody can go that far without learning and relearning and all of that. So please, always learn, keep researching, keep doing this, join organizations or join organizations such as Heels and Tech that would enable you or give you the resources and people that will point you in the right direction on what to learn to be able to upskill or to be able to grow fast in your career. I think we also mentioned mentorship and its importance, in trying to build that sustainable career. And I think that a lot of people just displace the place of mentorship. And thank God that our facilitators are here and are also re-emphasizing the importance of mentorship in going this far. Also, Uche also mentioned lastly that, be aware of your advantages and make the most of it. There's no place to sit down and say, oh, you don't know your advantages, or you know your advantages and you're not taking advantage of it, you're not using it to your own gain. So please always be aware of your advantages as a woman or as a man in your space and take advantage of it, because the global space allows you to do this, allows you to to fly. Okay, thank you so much. And before moving on to the next question, if you're just joining us, this is Hills and Tech, and this webinar is powered by Hills and Tech, which is a tech inclusion platform that allows individuals to upskill. And we do this by partnering with our seasoned facilitators, our well-renowned and well-experienced facilitators that, across the diverse range of courses that we offer in business analysis, cybersecurity, Salesforce, and a couple of others. So for more information on that, you can visit our website, www.hillsandtech.com, for more information. So we would move on to the next question. And so we've all spoken about what it's like to be a woman in our field and in our industry. Yes, our facilitators are the best and truly a blessing. Please, if you can just, give a shout out to our facilitators in the comments, that will go a long way, because Hills and Tech will not be Hills and Tech without the amazing facilitators that we have. Thank you so much for that. So the next question I'm going to be asking is, what are the trends and developments or changes that you've noticed in your field that is different from when you started out, and how have you evolved with this? I think that this question is self-explanatory. At the start of your career and where you are now, what are the things that you had to do, the changes that you had to make? What trends and development did you notice? And how have you been able to evolve with this? I think we would start with Jeanette, and then we can move to Annabelle, Yetunde, and Uche. So let's just keep it randomly like that. Okay, over to you, Jeanette.
All right, thank you. Well, when I started, is more or less like Excel and PowerPoint used in presentation and analyzing your data. But now we have the trend has changed to, we have Power BI, we have Tableau, Power Query, Python. So there was need for retraining. So while on the job, you need to keep learning and learning and learning. The trend now is even moving from Power BI, because we have Copilot, we have AI. Is not, even though you are doing your job, you also need to be proactive by thinking, how can I do this in a better way? How can I be efficient and effective? I cannot automate my work. That is where the likes of the Python will come in, like, how can I get my data faster? I cannot automate my process like Unipart. So even though the trend is changing, that is where we need to keep learning and learning and learning and learning, so that you are in par with the trend. You don't get outdated with the job.
Okay, thank you. Please, facilitators, you don't need to wait for me to call you. Like I said, I want this to be really engaging. So please unmute yourself. Feel free. This is a discussion. It's not an interview session. So feel free to unmute. If you don't agree with what Janet has said, feel free to chime in and give your own view. But thank you so much, Janet. I heard we're learning and learning. I think that's amazing. So Annabelle, before Annabelle comes on board, we have another speaker that is with us. Please, can we give a round of applause to Fumi Ogunlowo? I hope I pronounced that well. Fumi Ogunlowo is also a business analyst from the UK, very seasoned, very experienced, and she's also here to share a wealth of experience with us. Hi, Fumi. If you can hear me, please unmute yourself and just say hi, so that our facilitators and our audience can, just meet you and speak to you. Okay. Hi, Fumi.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm Fumi Ogunlowo. I'm a business analyst in the financial services in the UK. I actually work with the regulators.
Okay.
So I've been told to say a little bit about myself, because my bio didn't come through.
Yes.
So I started my career in the UK in the Crown Prosecution Service. I worked in roles from admin to admin management to case progression and process management. I then moved on to the financial services in 2011, where I worked in Lloyds Banking Group and also worked in Royal Bank of Scotland Group, including NatWest. Again, worked in customer services, process management, process improvement. And I dabbled during those years, I dabbled into business analysis here and there, but not as a BA, having a BA as a job title, if that makes sense. And then afterwards, I fell in love with it when I was doing all of that work. So I went to train and did some freelance work, put myself forward for opportunities. So again, perhaps this might be touching into a little bit of some of the questions that came up later. Push myself up for opportunities in that capacity to be able to do what a business analyst does, while training myself and improving my skills. And obviously my role, process improvement, helps me to also do a lot of that and implement process changes that were introduced London-wide in different roles. Fast forward, I did some freelance business analysis work, and currently I work with the regulators as a senior business analyst. So that's a little bit about me. In terms of changes, sorry, can you hear me? Apologies. I'm talking about women in tech. I'm having to do mommy duties very quickly.
No, we understand. We can hear you clearly.
So I am driving at the moment. I was at home when we started, but I've had to quickly nip out. I'm driving at the moment. I'll be back home shortly. So apologies if you're hearing a bit of noise. So talking about changes in trends in the field since starting. Again, I think the first speaker touched on that a little bit. Again, years back, it was mostly you do your requirements on Excel spreadsheets, you do your presentation, like you said, on PowerPoint and things like that. But today, there's been a lot of technology advancement, which means you have to upskill yourself and develop yourself and be up to date. So if you remember pro-COVID, I think there's another PA on the call. If you remember pro-COVID, we would run face-to-face workshops most of the time. If you have clients in different towns, cities, sometimes in another country, you would travel there to elicit their requirements, understand their business needs, the problem statement, and the problem you're looking to solve for them. But today we have a lot of virtual facilitation tools, one of which we're using today. We have Zoom, we have Teams, we have Google Meet, but also more, I think we have things like Mural and a range of other collaboration tools that you can work with. You can do a lot of preparatory work on, map a lot of models on there as well and share with the different people that you're working with, your different stakeholders, the business, the technical team. So there's been a lot of changes, and I think more importantly, one that quite a lot of us will be aware of is AI as well. I attended an event last week where that issue had to be discussed. Is AI going to take our job? And a key message from the speaker is AI is not going to take our job. AI is going to be a tool that can help us work smarter and help us to also have migrate more to other advanced roles like business advisory, where we leave the mundane, repetitive activities for AI to do, whilst we focus more on more value-add activities like business advisory, prompt engineering, and things like that. So yes, there's an evolution in trend, and the key thing is to keep upskilling, keep learning, get yourself a good mentor, attend industry events, and keep up to date. AI, a friend of mine would say AI would not take a job of anyone who is developing themselves. AI would take the job of those who refuse to evolve. So that's my view. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Funmi. You basically just answered the first and second question all in your introduction. Fantastic. And I hope we all penned down that point. Attend industry events. AI will not take the job of those who are currently upskilling. And there are some things that you need, you would learn from industry events. You will meet people, you will meet mentors, sponsors who would help you grow your career. So please, if you're an introvert, there are online events you can attend. If you're an extrovert, attend industry events. They are very important for your career. So thank you so much, Funmi, for that absolutely amazing introduction. And we're so happy to have you here. And so yes, back to our question. So I was asking about trends and developments in your field. I think Janet had talked to us about, the trends in the business analysis space, how it was formerly Excel and PowerPoint, and just the key is just to keep learning and updating yourself on what's happening. We're here to hear from Yetunde, Annabelle, Uche, Funmi. So So I think for me, I didn't answer that. So please, let's hear from you. What are the trends that you noticed that are no more or that have evolved in today's in your space today?
Okay,
One.
go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I was going to talk about the AI stuff because that has really changed a lot in my field. With the power of AI, you can carry out research like never before. There are so many tools out there that you can use to like mine data. You can use to like query different problems if you're looking for like a specific research gap or like information on something that you need for your work. And it's all about like learning how to access those tools and use them to your benefit. With AI, you can literally instead of like the traditional way of like reading a paper, you can talk to the paper. You can like have a conversation with it and ask it like, oh, what were the authors trying to do here? What does this figure mean? Can you explain what this means? And that's something that we didn't have before. So it gives us new ways to like carry out stuff that typically might be tedious, might be, bulky to do. There are tools with there are AI tools where you can mine through like all the scientific literature on a specific topic. Let's say you're looking for like a research gap, and you can have it kind of like create some sort of what do they call it? Like sort of visualize it for you, and you can go through it. It's easier than the typical having to like go to like Google Scholar and like search and look through papers and try to guess, will this paper be good? Then you download it, and then you realize that, oh, this paper doesn't have anything to do with what I'm looking for. So it has kind of given us like lots of different tools that make make things easier for us. And it's just like the other speaker said, AI won't take, well, how I like to say it is AI won't replace you. People that use AI will replace you. So yeah, AI has really changed a lot. Even with like ChatGPT and all those stuff. So yeah, that's really impacted biological research fields.
Thank you so much, Annabelle. Uche, Yetunde, you're going next. Fantastic.
Okay, so what I will add to what everybody has said, and I like how they're talking about the fact that I remember when I was in grad school, I was really young, and they were teaching us how to use Python, and I didn't love it. And I'm like, and it wasn't even related to my research at the time. And I was just talking to one of my professors, and I was like, yeah, I don't really love it. I don't need it. What's the point anyways? And she said to me that, look, if you don't get into it now, then maybe you're ready to start killing your career. So I'm just saying that, I'm echoing that again to anyone out there who is kind of thinking, yeah, do I need to upskill? Do I need to learn? Do I need to start incorporating, like we've just talked about, AI into what I'm doing? You probably have to, because whether you like it or not, the old methods will phase out. Okay, so back to what I feel is changing or has changed or has evolved since I, started my career. I would say that my field, the biosciences field, is interdisciplinary now. And I feel like it's across board. It's not even just in the biological sciences. No field on its own will work in silos. Everyone commingles. Hardly would you find a banker now not being able to incorporate tech into what they're doing, or a biologist not being able to incorporate chemistry or physics. So gone are those days where what you study is economics and you work in the bank. It's not like that anymore. Everyone is working together hand in hand to bring together a common goal. So I would say that, if you're in tech right now and you're thinking that the only places you can work are software development companies or places like Google and Amazon, you are wrong. You probably need to start looking at other places that you are not aware about, like start looking at biotech industries. We do a lot of computational work, do you see? So there's so much that you can do even as you are in tech. There's fintech, there's biotech, there's so much. I cannot even begin to go into it. But I tell you, any work that involves any form of data involves tech. So life is interdisciplinary. Because you are in software development doesn't mean that you cannot work in biology. And because you're in biology doesn't mean that you cannot work in, software or product development. So that's just what I would say is life is interdisciplinary. Don't limit yourself to start looking at only a short list of places that probably do what you do left, right, and center with what you're doing. Go far, go beyond. There's so many places that are looking for the skill that you have.
Life is interdisciplinary. That's my key take away from. If there's nothing that I learned, that's the only thing I take on, because a lot of people always say, oh, when it's tech, it has to be Microsoft, it has to be Google, it has to be Meta. And this is very insightful and very eye-opening. And I hope that everyone on the call is also learning from this. Thank you so much, Yetunde. Uche, I always like to draw you out. So just hear what you have to say. Okay, so over to you. Over to you.
Everything that the other speakers said, everything 100%. Plus, I know that like in the 2020s, there was this hiring boom, where they were hiring a lot of people in the tech industry, plus the salaries were really good. But the trend that I've noticed now is that these companies are also firing a lot, and they are also they are giving more salaries to certain kinds of tech fields and not as much to certain kinds of tech fields. So I think it really depends on what stage you're at. So if you are like fresh out of school or something, and still quite young, it might be good to, try to understand what your motivation for wanting to go into tech is and decide which role you would want to go into. I mean, roles like BAs, I think it's a good role, especially if you are like changing careers from another industry into becoming a BA. However, it's important to note that they don't pay as well as they used to then. So that's one of the things that I think that it's good to consider. And if you, like my own field is quite specialized, even though I'm a BA, I'm very specialized in CRM implementation. So I implement Microsoft Dynamics, Monday.com, Sugar CRM, and Creatio. So it requires, so mine is a little more technical than the average BA. However, I feel like it's still important because tech field is really broad. So I feel like it's important to know where you want to play and how you want to play, and have like the good expectations of how you will be compensated for your work. So another thing to note is that even though they are firing a lot of people, they are not firing the competent people. So one way to definitely stand out is to be competent at your job. So if you are competent, then jobs are going to hire you and they're going to offer you like a good sum of money as salary. So competence will always beat whatever trends that are happening in the industry. And then the last thing that I wanted to say is that, sorry, give me 1 second. My laptop is misbehaving right now. 1 second. Are you guys still able to see me?
Yes, we can see you. We can hear you clearly.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the last thing is obviously technology is changing, just like everyone has said. So there's always the need to keep learning and relearning and retraining. So tools that we didn't used to use before, we now use in our industry. So you have to learn to use those tools. Processes are changing. Companies are changing. My company has changed their processes so many times to be able to adapt to the changes in the landscape, in the technology landscape. So processes are changing. So being able to adapt to those processes without breaking. And many times when those process change is happening, it can be very painful because you are used to doing things a certain way. You still have your responsibilities, and then you have to quickly learn how to do things in a different way. So just being able to adapt is very helpful. So that's my point.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, ladies, everyone. I penned down a lot of things. Competency would always beat trends. And I think that that's something to take home. So as much as we're all scared that, oh, times are changing, AI is taking over, if you're currently upskilling, if you're learning, if you're competent in your job, You don't need to, I mean, you don't really need to be so worried about trends, because you would always be a step ahead. So thank you. Please, I hope that we're taking notes, and I think that our guest speakers deserve like a round of applause in the comment section. Please, let's just clap to show that we're learning, because the kind of knowledge that we're spilling today is not something that, you know, you would just pick out on the street. So please, let's give them a round of applause in the comments and move on to the next question. Because of our time, I'll try to rush our questions as much as possible, because we also want to give room for our audience that are in-house to also chime in with questions. And so this particular question is very important, because this particular webinar was inspired by the International Women's Day. So we want to talk about racism and discrimination, especially in the global landscape, and especially because we're all Black women. Have you experienced this in any form? What are your thoughts on how, first share your experiences with racism and discrimination as a woman, as a Black, working in tech in the global space, and then go on to share how you were able to navigate this and how we can create a more inclusive environment for women. I think I would start with Funmi. Funmi, if you can hear me, I think we can start with you, and then we can go round.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for that question. That's a bit of a tricky one for me, and I'll say why. I'm a funny kind of person. I say to people, I don't see racism and I don't see gender discrimination. So that's why I said that's a bit of a funny one for me. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I don't know if it's a conscious or unconscious thing. I don't see it. I can be daring. So if there's something I want, I go for it.
If you say yes.
I go for it first. I don't rule myself out. I rule myself in. That's the right way to put it. And I say no. If I go for it and they say no, I haven't lost anything. Sorry, but if I don't go, I could have ruled myself out of an opportunity. That's generally my approach. So I tend not to see discrimination where many others do. I just throw myself out there. I give it my best shot. I go in there confidently. But I do hear, people say, oh, if I did something, I applied for a job last year and I didn't get it. My first instinct was not to say, is it because I'm Black or is it because I'm a woman? My first reflection is, what could I have done differently? And how can I prepare myself for the next opportunity? So if there was racism or gender discrimination involved in the choices, I didn't see it because I didn't pay attention to it. That's how I've always approached my work. That's how I've always approached life. So that's why I said I'm probably not the best person to answer that question. I'm probably also fortunate to be in a country where, although there is racism, people are still careful because it's frowned upon, So perhaps the impact is not as prevalent in the UK as it could be in some other areas. But generally, and I've been in a away day where my fellow Black colleague had said, a female had said, because she's a woman, a Black woman, she hasn't felt confident to speak up in certain rooms. And I started thinking, I can't relate. So that's why I think maybe I just have a weirdly different approach to life. But what I would say is, I say this to my children, I say to my friends, before I think racism, before I think gender inequality, I think, have I invested enough in myself? Have I put my best foot forward? If I have done all of that, and I'm a Christian, so and I don't know if we're supposed to, go down that route, but I also believe that what belongs to me, I will get, and if it's not mine, then the time is not right. And I'll continue to work hard and develop myself. That, again, like I said, I'm not saying racism does not exist. I'm saying I don't think about it, so I don't allow it to stop me from going for what I want. But I must also acknowledge that in terms of there is gender inequality and there is a massive pay gap. I was doing some preparation yesterday, and I made some notes, but I did some research and I made some notes. But unfortunately, I'm in the car at the moment, so I don't have it. And it's statistics around pay gaps between male and female, and it is quite alarming. And I've been asking myself, I was quite excited. I think I told Inyolua when I got the invite to come on this program, I said one of the things that made me really excited to jump on is some statistics I had come across even before this program, which shows the alarming difference between male and female gender gap. And I think what I would say to my fellow ladies on this call today is be confident. Let's continue to develop ourselves. Let's give it our best shot. But more importantly, go in there and confidently ask for what you believe you deserve. One of my friends, mentor, cheerleader is on this call today. And I remember my current role, when I got it, I went in there, I had negotiated an amount before getting the role. After getting the role, I went in and negotiated at a higher amount, and I got it. How does that compare with my male colleagues? I don't know, but I'm happy with how much I negotiated and how much I'm earning. I don't know if that makes sense. But that's my approach.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was such an insightful approach for me. Thank you. I think I'd like to hear from Yetunde and Annabelle, because we hear a lot about racism and in the US. So I want to hear from from you, your experiences. Hi, Yetunde.
Okay, so I'll go first, and my answer is sort of similar to what Funmi talked about, but I would take it in another direction. I personally have not had, any racism type of battle with anybody that I have worked with. But so, however, in a lot of places that I have worked, I found myself being the only Black woman, working there. So they might be like right now where I work, everyone is Caucasian, I'm the only Black. When I was in grad school, I was in grad school for 5 years. I was the only Black woman in my entire department. Until right after when I was about to start graduating, then other Black African women started coming in. So what I would say though is that I don't get comfortable because of the fact that I'm now the only Black. I am not that I carry it on top of my head, but I'm very conscious about it, and I'm very conscious about putting out the best. So in whatever I do, I always stand out. I always try to stand out. In the emails that I send, if someone is asking me a question, I go over and beyond. I would attach a literature search that I have done to back up my response. Classic example was yesterday. A couple of people collaborated with us. I was the one that did the research. I put I put all the results together. I pushed it out in the email. I got a response. They were like, "Oh, fantastic job, blah, blah, blah." And then he asked me, why did I do it the way that I did it and not the other way? I know the way that I did it was because that's what is established in the field, but he's not in my field, right? So I had to put my foot on the ground. I wrote a very lengthy email. And by the time I was done, this guy was like, "Oh, thank you for the education. What do you think is the next step for me to take now?" Do you see? So in that case, I have made myself stand. I'm not when you put me on, and I'm not trying to toot my horns, please. That's not what I'm just trying to allow us reason together so that we can think about how, if you're in that particular phase of your life or you're in this type of space, these are things that you can do. I follow up when my deadline is my deadline. If I say that I'm going to get this to you at a certain time, I will do it, even if it means that I have to lose my sleep. I don't, so that at the end of the day, something happens, you don't want to be the reason that they are discriminating against Black women. Do you see? So that if other Black women are coming, they will say, "Oh, Black women, that's how they do." No, they will say, "Because you are Black, I'm hiring you." When I was in grad school, my professor literally said that I want to work with another Nigerian student. That is how I take, when I go into a certain place, I try to make myself stand out. So that's what I would say to kind of overcome I haven't faced racism, to be honest, but I also do my own best to ensure that I'm not the reason that racism will start. You see, so that's what I would say on that topic.
Amazing, fantastic. Honestly, do not be the reason why racism will start. I think that everyone should just write that in the comments, because that's an individual preaching. That's well, I preach. That's the one-liner. Do not be the reason why racism would start. And I think that if everyone has that at the back of their mind, then we're sort of like even killing racism. Now, Annabelle, do you have some things to add to that before we move on to the next question? Or Janet, Uche? Okay. Yes, please.
Personally, I haven't faced like outright racist situations, but I do not deny that discrimination is still a challenge in, you know, a lot of places. And it's sad. It's really sad, but haven't really faced that personally.
All right, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah. So moving on to the next question. I think this question is very important. there are a lot of people who are currently not in the tech space, and they just look at people in tech and they're like, these people are making money, or I want to get into tech. I want to be tech. I want to do tech. And they just think that that's the only thing they know about tech is that's where the money is at. So I'm going there. So I think the question that is on our minds is, what advice would you give to someone who just feels like transitioning from where they are, which is a non-tech field, into the world of tech? Yeah, that's this question. What advice would you give? And we can start with Janet. You look like you have something very interesting to add to that. So we'll start with you, and then we'll go around as well.
Well, I would say don't look at the money, because everything is not all about the money. Yes, money is important, but you need to be able to change into a field that you are comfortable with. Like a field where, because tools changes very fast. You need to be able to get into a space you are comfortable, you will be able to learn and upskill. That is what I would say. Don't just follow the crowd because everybody is changing into tech, moving into tech. You want to move into tech. Before, in data analysis, if you know your Excel, you are okay. Microsoft Access, you are okay. But now we've moved beyond that. Even some part of data analysis now, you need to know R, Python, you understand. So if you are coming with the mindset of, I want to move into tech that I don't want to do coding, that would be a wrong place for you to be. Because you see people saying, you come into data analysis, you don't need coding. Yes, you don't. But somehow as you grow along, you will need it. It is necessary, even though they will not make it compulsory. But if you want to grow in that field, you need to learn it. So if you have these, I don't like coding, what do you want to do? So I would say move into the space in tech that you are comfortable with. Do your research. Speak with people that are into the space you aspire to be, the tech position. Speak with them. Get mentor to direct you so that they can actually direct your career in a path that you will grow and you will not be left out. That's all I have to say.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Janet. So don't follow the money. Follow what you're interested in. Janet, that's the advice that Janet has for us today. Or do not let money be the motivating, factor, because at the end of the day, you still need the skills. Thank you so much. Yes, Uche, Fumi, Annabelle, Yetunde, what advice would you give to someone who wants to just pivot into tech from where they are? Uche, yes.
Okay. So I think everything that Janet said, plus I think especially if you're going to be working outside of Nigeria, somewhere like Canada, they are very big on referrals here. So if I refer someone in my company, chances are they would pick that person over another person who just applies randomly. So how can you get people to refer you? Will be to join organizations like Heels and Tech. Like, I'm not sure where Heels and Tech is located. But joining organizations like Hills and Tech, joining networking organizations, joining industry groups, and just networking with people. That way you get the chances that you'll find someone to refer you to a company and even tell you about openings that you may not know exist is very high. Another thing will be, of course, to get work experience. Especially if you are someone who is transiting from another industry into the tech industry and you don't have a lot of work experience, I think it's very important to get that work experience, however you can get it, because that's what is going to sharpen your competence. So for some people, I've heard about programs where they're able to get not just training, but they're also able to get experience alongside, even though you don't get paid. In fact, you are the one actually paying to get that experience at training. But I think it's important because money, like if you go out head on looking at how much you can make immediately without actually looking at how much value you can add, I think that would be the wrong way to look at it. So I think it's more about ensuring that you have the competence to add the value that you need to add, and that way the money will come. The money will always come to people who are good at their jobs. Another advice would be to work with a mentor. Mentorship is like really, really important because your mentor is able to, assess your situation, is able to give you advice, and is able to help you with job searching, help you with, reviewing your CV, and just even the encouragement alone sometimes, because sometimes you might apply to so many jobs and you haven't found one after a while. Just having that mentor who is able to tell you that, don't worry, you would soon get that good job you're looking for is actually very helpful. And I think, yeah, those are the things that I would advise. So
those are fantastic points. So mentorship, just joining organizations such as Hills and Tech, and just to point out that Hills and Tech is global. You can join us from anywhere in the world. So our courses, thank you. Our courses are administered online by our amazing facilitators. And so thank you so much for that contribution. Annabelle, Fumi, Yetunde, do you have anything to add to that? Or we good? Yes, Yetunde.
Oh, okay. So what I would say in addition is, and everyone has giving very fantastic points, is you need to also understand how your field works, because the reason there's a difference between you have the skill and you have the competence, as well as how your field works, right? In my own field, there are different ways that you can go. If you are a scientist, you don't necessarily have to work in the lab. You can do communication, you can do writing, you can do data analysis. There's so many places that you can go. Some of them are not for profit, some of them are government research, some of them are academics, some of them are industry. All of those things come together to factor themselves into where you can easily get a job, right? So really understand how your field works. If you don't understand how your field works, get somebody who is currently in that field, chat with them, send them a message on LinkedIn or Instagram and be like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. Can we have a chat for about 30 minutes so that you can... I know several people that have struggled with getting into graduate school, and all they needed was just to talk to somebody.
Thank you so much, Yetunde, for that particular contribution. Once again, apologies for earlier. Fantastic insights from our guest speakers. To those who are just joining in, we're talking about trends and insights in the tech space in the diaspora, and we've been able, from start to now, we've talked about how you can stay ahead of the game. We talked about how to handle racism and discrimination. If you're trying to move from a non-tech background into tech, the things that you should consider and the things that you should look out for. And so far, our guest speakers have been fantastic. They've been able to share valuable insights, which we hope that you've been learning and you've been taking notes. And so please, if you have any questions for our guest speakers at this, Simi, please just mute yourself, Simi, if you can hear me. Let me just mute her. Okay, so if you have questions, this is the time that you want to drop them in the comment section or in the chat box so that we can get ready to ask our guest speakers these questions. In the meantime, I will just ask another question that, you know, I'm sure that a lot of us would want to know about. So what in the course of your career, and especially as one who currently work globally in different countries, what are some of the challenges? What are some of the challenges that you would say that you have faced in your journey, your career trajectory, and what are the things that you did to sort of like navigate these challenges? Yeah, so what are the challenges that you faced, and how were you able to, you know, navigate or mitigate these challenges, so that those who are coming up or who are looking to can just, okay, if I do encounter any sort of challenges, these are the sort of things that I can do. Challenges are normal, are expected, and all of that. So I think I'll, yeah, so for me, Janet, Uche, Yetunde, please. Please, over to you.
Thank you again for the opportunity.
Oh, we can see you now.
Yeah, yeah. I was driving earlier. Sorry about that. Thank you again for the opportunity. I think a big challenge for me coming into this is not tech. This is just across board. Start getting a job in this country was previous experience. Believe it or not, I searched for a job for over a year. This was several years ago. This was early 2000. So several years ago, I searched for over a year and I didn't get a job. But like I said, one of the things I've always done is what can I do differently? So in that time I was volunteering. I sought volunteering opportunities. Even that didn't come easy, you know, but I saw volunteering opportunities. I kept training and developing myself. And I got myself a mentor. And I realized that I was getting interviews. I was demonstrating very strong competencies, but I was just not coming across well in interviews. And I remember once my interviewer recorded me. My mentor did a mock interview for me and she recorded me and she played it back. And she said, "What do you think?" And I recall going, "Oh, that was awful." So it was the body language, it was the hesitation, it was a number of things which she helped me to identify earlier on in my career. I also applied for a job at her organization, which I didn't get. She sat on the interview, by the way, and I didn't get the job. She was part of the panel and I didn't get the job. She was the most senior person on the panel, even. She wasn't meant to be at the interview, but they called on her at the last minute. So she sat there. And I remember at the end of the day, she called me. She said, "How did you think the interview went?" I said, "Well, I gave it my best shot." She said, "I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you didn't get the job." And she said, "But I will give you something very useful. I'll give you feedback, you know, from someone that was on the panel." And she explained, she said, this was years ago, it was a customer service job. She said, "You're applying for a customer service job. You came in a suit in the middle of summer. It was hot. You didn't take it. Okay, fair enough. You came for, you know, so maybe you wanted to make an impression. You could have taken off your blazer. They offered you a drink, a cup of water. You didn't accept it. You held onto your handbag, you know, and it was all about body language." She said at the end of the interview, the other guys on the panel said, "I think she's great. I think she can do the job, but we don't think we can work with her. I don't think she'll be a good fit on my team. I don't think I can work with her." That she came across too uptight. So she said, and that was when she then broke it down, saying it was the middle of summer. You're applying for customer service, for goodness sake. You know, you didn't need to wear a suit. And if you're wearing a suit, you could have taken it off, relax. When they offered you water, accept it, you know, just be free. You were holding on to, I was pregnant at the time. I didn't want it to show. So I covered my belly with my bag. But that came across, you know, it set the wrong signal. It came across as uptight. I learned a lot of this. That was the last time, by the way, that I wore a suit to an interview. I'm not saying everybody should excuse me. I'm not saying everybody should do that, I'm just talking about the lessons I learned. If I'm going for an interview, I find a nice black, very smart dress. You know, I might wear a blazer, I might not. But it's just some of these things is body language, and some things that we don't think about in Africa is considered aggressive or interpreted a different way. So this is where a mentor comes in handy. Someone that can see your blind spots, those things that you can't see. You know, so that was the major culture shock for me in terms of an experience, work experience. Was another big word. Coming from Nigeria, you go to school, you get a good grade, most likely you get a job. Here, if you haven't done it before, nobody's going to give you a job. And if you don't get a job, how could you demonstrate you've done it before? So I've had to do a lot of work experience in my life. You know, I want to try and get into an area. I start to push myself for opportunities in that space. I mentioned how I started off in customer service. I actually started off in criminal justice system. I'd worked my way up to management, and then I wanted to break into financial services and decided, you know, go into customer services. Let's see if it makes it easy. It wasn't easy, but I kept pushing myself forward for opportunities. If they're developing a new software in my team, I'm that SME that works for them, and I go beyond SME. I help them to write requirements. I help them to develop the requirement. So I was building my skills whilst I was doing all of that. And that really helped. At the right time, everything fit together. So just keep pushing, speak to people in that space, understand the cultural differences, because those are, sometimes I believe those are the perhaps areas where we let ourselves down. And research about the organization you're applying to. I believe it makes a difference. Sometimes when it comes to a choice between two candidates who are equally very strong, the one that has researched about the organization, that has demonstrated in the interview that I know you, I know what you stand for, I know what your goal, your values are, and it aligns with mine because I've done X, Y, Z, and this is how I can help you. That one would potentially get the job if it comes down to two strong candidates who, from a competency perspective, they performed equally strongly. That's my 2 cents.
Fantastic, thank you. I loved the examples that you shared, and I think we can all learn a thing or two from that. So I think in this particular meeting, I can't count the number of times that I've heard mentorship. We've heard the importance of mentorship, the importance of doing your research and doing the work, the importance of getting affiliated with a company or an organization that would give you the right resources that you need to stay ahead of the game. These are all things that has come across diverse speakers. So I hope that you are taking notes. And yeah, so because of our time, I think I'll just ask one last question, and then we can then go around to share any last words that we have before we call it a day. So the next question that I'll be asking is, very importantly, to those who are looking to immigrate to a new country out of maybe Africa, or you're in Africa and you're looking to get a job in the tech industry outside of your space, what are the first 3 things that you would advise them to do? I think we'll take it around. What are the first 3 things that you would advise anybody who's joining this webinar, who will watch this webinar later, that wants to get into tech? They're new, they're confused. What 3 things would you advise them to do first before any other thing? I'll take Yetunde, Annabelle, the floor is now open for everyone.
Okay, I would say, for me, I would say, whatever country you want to move into, you need to do research. What is obtainable? What tools do they use in that particular country? Are they more concerned about your experience or certification? Like in Canada, I know they use a lot of referrals. So you might want to like get a mentor in that space, do a lot of networking. So I would say talk with the people there, do your research, network, and get a mentor. That will be it from me.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. Thank you. I won't be calling names now. I'll just, I'll just unmute you. So you'll be put on the spot.
Go. I was trying to like wrap it up in my head so that I don't
Yeah.
keep going around in circles. But I think we've sort of kind of touched up on all these important things in more ways than one. I would say again for you to, how do I say this, understand visa policies, right? So the reason that you might not be, before you embark on, any, job search outside of where you are, there are real policies that might exempt you from, being hired in the place that you want to go. So you need to understand how it works. That's why I think I said it before, that you really need to understand how your field works and also how that country works in terms of hiring. It might not be direct for you to be able to get a job from Nigeria to that country. What can you do to bridge that gap in the process? It might also be possible for you to be able to get that job directly from Nigeria. What companies would give you offers in that kind of regard? Do you see what I'm saying? So classic example, so that I don't go around in circles, is in my community, we always encourage people to maintain their biological sciences degree. And from what I know, right, as a student who studied microbiology, I knew that if I wanted to make something, great out of my degree, I needed to, go for a graduate degree. I needed to get my PhD, right? That was what I knew at the time. So I started looking for graduate school opportunities. Like Fumi said, I also suffered several rejections until I finally, understood how things worked and I got into it. But I guess my point is that that's not all that's available to you, because within the space of biological sciences, there are different pathways as well. And those pathways will also determine what visa policies will allow or will exempt you from those processes. So one of the students that, came into our community and got trained, the first thing we told them that, look, you're in Nigeria, you're competing globally. That's another thing you need to understand is, even though you might be a first class graduate, and you have everything well, you are still competing globally. There's some people outside of, Nigeria that are probably trying to get hired from Hong Kong, that on paper they look much better than you. So you kind of have to understand that as well. So we encourage them to look for internship opportunities in Nigeria at places we know would give them like a global standing, where we know, or you can get trained, and with the training that you get here, you can actually compete globally. So she did that, and she had been trying in the past to get into graduate school, and it wasn't working. She got a good job in Nigeria, but that's not what she wanted. She still wanted to get her PhD. And, I was still asking, do you really want a PhD, or, would a job be fine and all of that? And she was still in that battle, but she kept on, she kept on applying to graduate school. But in the middle of her ability to, in the middle of her search to get into a good graduate program, she stumbled upon a research, scientist position. This girl applied to it and she got hired. And as soon as she got hired, they were able to issue her an H-1B visa. H-1B visa is very, very hard to come by if you're working for big companies. Do you understand? So that's why I'm trying to use this as an example, that I want you to understand how visas work before you just jump into it, because it might not just be enough for you to get hired. You might have to move. If you're moving, how can you work without a permanent resident or a student visa and things like that? Anyway, she got hired with that H-1B visa, but she never would have been able to get hired with an H-1B visa if she worked with Google, because Google's policies on H-1B visas to work in the US is completely different. Because she's working for an academic company, there's no cap on how many H-1B visas they can give out. So she was able to get hired from Nigeria. She moved to the US, and that's how she started working. So I would say that's the number one thing I would ask you to do, is look into visas, look into how it works in different spaces. There's industry, there's academics, there's government research. There's so many different places that have different policies as regards to how they can hire people that are trying to apply domestically and work there. And so that's just, what I would say. And then I'll let other people go ahead.
Thank you so much for that beautiful insights, Yetunde. Are there any other comments from our guest speakers on this particular question? Any other things to add? Okay, so I think that we've been able to learn a lot. We've had a fantastic run. From the start of this conversation, till now, I'm the host, and my noting pad is full because I also have learned a lot. So I want to believe that everyone that is on this call was able to learn a lot as well. We started talking about trends and insights within the tech space in the diaspora, and there's some key things that we talked about, from the importance of research. Nobody is going to spoon feed you. I think that a lot of times in Africa, a lot of individuals are used to getting resources being handed to them. But when you go out there, it's more or less like you have to fight for yourself, especially because you're now in a more competitive landscape. And I think that those are the things that we've learned from our guest speakers today. The importance of research, the importance of putting your best foot forward. Of course, there may be rejections along the way, but that's why you should be a part of the community, be resilient, and that's why Heels and Tech is here. At the start of our training, I did do a bit of introduction to what we do at Heels and Tech, and I'll just take that briefly again. Heels and Tech is a platform that we're dedicated to, just helping you navigate through the world of technology, especially as women. However, we also welcome men. We have a variety of online courses that we take, from business analysis to data analytics, bioinformatics, Salesforce, cybersecurity, and a couple of others. We do this with the help of our very bankable seasoned partners and facilitators who help us take through these courses online. You can be part of us from any part in the world. And beyond just helping you take these courses, you also gather experience. You are inducted into a group of community that can, share their experiences with you, so that you do not keep failing. You learn from what they've done, and then you are able to you're able to put your best foot forward. And of course, as our amazing guest speakers have said, before going into any country, if you're looking to work in any country, all you have to do is research, ask questions, and the internet is very wide. You get to learn a lot of things. Oh, a lot of people are even just joining in, but sadly, we have to call it a day. We have to call it a day because we've been here since 3 o'clock, and also we want people to be able to have a restful weekend. And I think we have another course that is coming up after this session. So with this, I would say, please, can we in the comment section, clap for our guest speakers. These women, I tell you for free, they are busy. They have the busiest schedules you can ever think of, but they took out time to grace this webinar, to just speak to us, to share their knowledge, to share their insights. And I think that they deserve to be celebrated. Thank you so much to Yetunde Adewumi, Annabelle Anyang, Fumi Ogunlowo, Janet, to Uche, to all of you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to speak with us today. We really learned a lot. And I know that in the comments, I know that we're committing that we will put these things that we've learned to work, and we would always refer to this and say that, oh, we learned from this webinar. Thank you to all of you. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. So many nudges. Please, let's just clap for them. Thank you. Are there any final words that you have to say to anyone? Yesterday, Annabelle, Fumi, Janet, if you have anything to say, feel free to unmute and just give your last word. Okay, so I don't know if someone is muted. Okay. Okay, so I would take it that there are no comments on our end, but thank you so much, everyone, for being a part. Thank you to the Heels and Tech team, to Bisola, and everyone who put together this amazing webinar. We will be doing a summary of this webinar and posting it out on our platform and on our blog. So if you're not following Heels and Tech, please do so. We're Heels and Tech on all our social media platforms, and you can also read more on our blog, on our website, to know more about us, the courses that we do, our amazing training programs and all of that. Please visit our website, www.heelsandtech.com. With this, we call it a day. Thank you and have a fantastic fantastic weekend.